On December 27, 1942, in Port Moresby, New Guinea, the first blows fell. As dawn's light stretched shadows over the pierced steel planking at Loki Airfield, maintenance teams removed the concealing nets from the dual-tailed shapes. 12 Lockheed P-38F Lightnings from the 39th Fighter Squadron, part of the 35th Fighter Group, waited ready with full fuel and loaded ordnance, their unique forked tails shining under the humid sunrise. Reports from coast watchers indicated a major Japanese aerial assault building. Several groups heading toward Buna, totaling around 40 planes, escorted by fighters, intercept window 30 minutes. Captain Thomas Lynch scanned his gauges and gave the go-ahead to his wingmen. One of them was Second Lieutenant Richard Bong, on loan from the 49th Fighter Group's 9th Squadron, pending delivery of their own P-38s. Unbeknownst to the group, this dawn patrol would signal a pivotal change in Pacific aerial warfare. Japanese aviators nearing Buna had only glimpsed P-38s sporadically in prior engagements. Their assessments still wavered on the capabilities of this odd twin fuselage plane. Soon, that vagueness would give way to stunned awareness. For 13 months, the Imperial Japanese Navy's top aces had ruled the skies over the Pacific. The Mitsubishi A6M-Zero's famed agility haunted Allied aviators. With a turning circle of 950 feet, ascent to 6,000 feet in 7 minutes 27 seconds, and a top velocity of 331 mph. These figures fueled decisive triumphs in China and the initial Pacific battles. U.S. flyers in Bell P-39 Airacobras and Curtiss P-40 Warhawks had paid dearly to discover that tangling with a Zero in tight maneuvers often spelled doom. Yet the P-38 Lightning embodied a bold new approach to dogfights. Powered by paired Allison V1710 engines, each delivering 150 horsepower, and equipped with turbo superchargers that sustained output at heights where rivals faltered, it reached 414 mph and operated up to a 44,000-foot ceiling. Its firepower clustered forward, a single 20mm Hispano cannon alongside 450 caliber Browning machine guns, all aligned for direct fire, free from the aiming issues of wing guns. During instruction at Hamilton Field in California, Lieutenant Richard Bong had memorized these details. Hailing from a rural upbringing in Poplar, Wisconsin, where he'd first taken to the air via the Civilian Pilot Training Initiative, Bong grasped that the Lightning's edge came from eschewing turns with Zeros, instead prioritizing evasion of such brawls. Velocity, height, and gun power, hit from on high, plunge through the foes, then regain elevation. Such strategies required restraint, timing, and a firm dismissal of old-school pursuit urges. In the inbound Japanese wing, seasoned airmen from lay-based carrier units maintained their routine protective formations. The assortment of Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, Nakajima Ki 43 Oscars, and Aichi D3A Val dive bombers embodied the pinnacle of IJN flying talent. These experts had surged through the Pacific theater, from Pearl Harbor to the Dutch East Indies, facing scant resistance. U.S. interceptors usually labored beyond 15,000 feet, their sluggish ascents rendering them easy prey. The day's assignment seemed standard: shield the bombers en route to Buna, neutralize any Allied air threats, and head home. Lately, Japanese crews had spotted those sporadic twin-tailed craft, yet dismissed them as scouts or bombers. The notion that the Americans had engineered a pursuer tailored to counter the Zero's strengths eluded their strategists. But at 18,000 feet, the P-38s commanded the field. Captain Lynch initiated the assault, sending his Lightning into a steep descent surpassing 400 meters. His squadron mates, including Bong, picked out objectives and trail. The forward-focused arsenal let them unleash volleys from over 400 yards, far outside the Zero's puny weapons' reach. Lynch's salvo shredded an Oscar on the initial sweep. The enemy machine broke apart from the barrage of 20mm rounds and 50 caliber strikes. As Lynch regained height, pursuing Zero drivers tried to match him, but felt their frames shake fiercely nearing 400 mph in pursuit. Alarms blared in their cabins, signaling proximity to break up speeds. Spotting a Zero lunging at Lynch, Lieutenant Bong banked for a lead angle burst. His initial salvo struck true, hurling the Zero downward in a fiery whirl. As he recovered, 3 additional Zeros swarmed him. Bong slammed the throttles and plunged clear, surging past 450 mph. The Japanese could merely observe as the enigmatic twin-tailed machine vanished from view, utterly beyond pursuit. As he leveled from his dive just over the treetops of the jungle, Bong caught sight of a Val dive bomber pulling out of its bombing pass. A quick salvo from 100 yards away knocked it out of the sky, sending it plummeting into the foliage, engulfed in fire. These marked Bong's initial 2 confirmed kills, marking the start of his record-breaking run as the top-scoring U.S. ace in the conflict. The skirmish wrapped up in under 10 minutes. The 39th Squadron tallied 12 Japanese planes downed, with successes credited to Lynch, Bong, and Second Lieutenant Carl Planck. Not a single P-38 went missing. Post-mission Japanese accounts revealed bewilderment and concern. Aviators spoke of planes with unreal velocity and ascent power striking from distances far outside usual dogfight ranges. The familiar realm of level-turning battles, where Japanese flyers thrived, had abruptly shifted to a high-altitude arena where pace and height dictated who lived or died. This shift rippled through the Japanese Naval Air Command in Rabaul. Analysts rushed to reevaluate the P-38's strengths. Its dual-engine setup had misled them into viewing it as a bulky interceptor unfit for dogfights. They never foresaw that U.S. designers had crafted a breakthrough, a pursuit plane that dominated via upward tactics instead of lateral nimbleness. Further clashes made the P-38's innovative edge even more evident. The Lightning's turbo superchargers let it sustain peak performance at heights where standard engines dropped to half strength. Its plunge velocity neared the speed of sound quicker than any Japanese craft could pursue without breaking apart. The knack for turning momentum into elevation enabled P-38 crews to reclaim superior positioning over foes mere moments after a strike. On January 7, 1943, this emerging danger hit home inescapably. 9 P-38s, guarding bombers over Leh, ran into about 20 Japanese interceptors. Conventional strategy would have urged the outmatched Americans to circle defensively. Rather, the P-38 surged to 25,000 feet and launched steep descents from spots the enemy couldn't access. Lieutenant Richard Bong, now routinely operating with the 39th Squadron pending his own outfit's P-38 arrivals, showcased the Lightning's deadly prowess. Streaking down from on high, he took out a vital Ki-43 Oscar with a tricky angled burst at 300 yards. As the Japanese tried to gain height against him, Bong pulled off a chandelle that lofted him back to 20,000 feet, well beyond their reach. From that vantage, he picked a fresh mark and cycled through the routine again. The dynamics of upward fighting were alien to Japanese aviators. Though a Zero could outmaneuver any U.S. plane in turns, it risked disintegration trying to keep up with a P-38's dive. It would stall out chasing the Lightning's power climb. And it had no chance of overtaking a P-38 that opted to break off with its greater thrust. The flat plane domain, where Japanese experts ruled, had given way to a multidimensional zone where elevation and thrust outshone cornering skill. Seasoned Japanese aviators grappled to adjust. Their doctrine centered on tight quarters-turning duels, slipping behind foes with unmatched agility. Facing the P-38, such approaches fell flat. By the moment a Zero jockey lined up a shot, the Lightning was already a mile distant, ascending through layers the enemy couldn't touch. The mental toll matched the strategic shortfall in severity. Japanese pilots, who had held a qualitative edge from the war's outset, now felt powerless before adversaries who wouldn't play by their rules. The strain of always watching the skies overhead, aware that doom might dive from unreachable heights, wore down spirits. Certain flyers showed signs of battle exhaustion rare in Japanese forces before. Come February 1943, P-38 operations in the Southwest Pacific surged ahead. The 49th Fighter Group's 9th Fighter Squadron at last got their Lightnings. The 8th Fighter Group's 80th Fighter Squadron started swapping P-39s for P-38s. Australia's 475th Fighter Group, dedicated solely to Lightnings, took shape. Every incoming unit pored over battle logs from aces like Lynch and Bong, honing methods that leveraged the P-38's edges. Leaders in those squadrons stressed height control as paramount in drills. Altitude is life insurance turned into the guiding principle. Speed is life. Flyers trained to ignore the urge to dogfight in turns, holding fast to velocity and relying on up-down moves. The high-speed yo-yo let a P-38 trade surplus pace for height while flipping course. The barrel roll assault harnessed the lightning's swift banking to keep weapons trained amid sustained drive. Japanese efforts to counter these strategies were mostly unsuccessful. The Kawasaki Kai-61 Tony, featuring a liquid-cooled engine and enhanced weaponry, had been engineered precisely to challenge high-altitude U.S. bombers. Yet, even the Tony failed to rival the P-38's prowess beyond 20,000 feet. The Nakajima Ki-44 Shoki prioritized velocity and ascent rate rather than agility, yet it still lagged behind the Lightning's overall performance. Reports from Japanese intelligence highlighted increasing despair among their forces. Airmen received orders to steer clear of clashes with P-38s unless they held a decisive numerical edge and a favorable vantage point. Even in those scenarios, confrontations were advised against above 15,000 feet, where the Lightning's superiority proved overwhelming. Certain squadrons tried drawing P-38s into low-level dogfights focused on turns, but U.S. aviators had mastered restraint, declining battles under disadvantageous conditions. The manufacturing landscape only deepened Japan's operational woes. Lockheed's assembly facility in Burbank, California, attained impressive productivity. By March 1943, the plant was churning out 10 P-38s daily. Building each plane demanded roughly 37,000 man-hours, though America's robust industrial output rendered such costs manageable. In contrast, Japanese plane manufacturing, hampered by resource deficits and air raid destruction, labored to offset battlefield attrition. Differences in pilot preparation further amplified the divide. U.S. P-38 operators reached combat zones with over 300 flying hours, encompassing at least 50 in their specific model. They underwent thorough drills in vertical maneuvers, marksmanship, and group formations. Japanese substitutes, however, endured shortened instruction courses, totaling under 100 hours in the air. Numerous had yet to experience altitudes over 20,000 feet prior to facing P-38s in battle. The March 1943 Battle of the Bismarck Sea showcased the P-38's pivotal role. Lightnings provided high-altitude protection for Allied strike aircraft targeting a key Japanese transport fleet. As Zero fighters climbed to challenge them, the P-38s deployed flawless vertical maneuvers, eliminating several enemy planes while thwarting any meaningful convoy safeguards. The action resulted in 8 cargo vessels and 4 escorts lost at sea, inflicting severe setbacks on Japan's supply operations. In asserting control over the Solomons, various P-38 aviators rose to mythic status. Captain Thomas Lynch from the 39th Fighter Squadron elevated vertical strategies to mastery, amassing 20 verified kills before perishing in March 1944. Lieutenant Richard Bong sustained his extraordinary tally, revealing a remarkable talent for aligning his P-38 to deliver ideal angled strikes. Come August 1943, another standout joined the ranks of Lightning experts. Lieutenant Thomas McGuire, posted to the freshly established 475th Fighter Group's 431st Fighter Squadron, notched his initial triumphs on August 18 over Wewak. While offering overhead escort to bombers, McGuire's element ran into about 20 Japanese aircraft. During his debut skirmish, he downed 2 Kai-43 Oscars and a Kai-61 Tony, then clinched ace status within 2 days by securing 2 additional wins on August 21. McGuire's approach to fighting stressed bold vertical actions and accurate shooting. He later authored a guide called Combat Tactics in the Southwest Pacific Area, which turned into essential material across the 5th Air Force. His methods featured the McGuire roll, a rapid barrel maneuver that kept attackers on the offensive while conserving energy, and the vertical reverse, leveraging the P-38's climbing power to flip the script on a trailing foe. The broader consequences of P-38 supremacy reached far past single engagements. With its endurance surpassing 1,000 miles when fitted with auxiliary tanks, the Lightning empowered U.S. commanders to hit Japanese outposts once deemed untouchable. Escort patrols could extend to Rabaul from New Guinea, securing skies ahead of bomber runs. Escorting strike groups across their full routes removed the exposure gaps that Japanese defenders had once capitalized on. On April 18, 1943, the P-38's exceptional attributes facilitated one of the conflict's most crucial operations. U.S. code interceptors had captured Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's schedule for reviewing bases in the Solomon Islands. The operation to ambush him demanded a 435-mile oceanic traverse from Guadalcanal, flawless routing absent visual guides, and pinpoint synchronization to hit the ambush zone as Yamamoto's plane transited. Solely the P-38 offered the necessary reach, pace, and onboard tools for the assignment. Major John Mitchell, heading the 339th Fighter Squadron of the 347th Fighter Group, commanded 16 Lightnings on the war's farthest fighter interception run. Skimming wave crests to evade detection systems, upholding total radio quiet, the P-38s relied on estimated positioning for more than 2 hours. Mitchell's course calculations hit the mark precisely. At 09:34, right on schedule, Yamamoto's pair of Mitsubishi G4M Betty bombers. They arrived accompanied by their 6 escort fighters. Captain Thomas Lania Jr. and Lieutenant Rex Barber launched their assault while the high-altitude cover tangled with the Guardians. Barber's focused barrage caused the Admiral's transport plane to plummet into the dense foliage, eliminating Japan's top naval tactician and inflicting a severe setback on enemy spirits. The mental shockwave spread across Japanese command circles. With U.S. planes striking so accurately over vast ocean distances, vulnerability loomed for everyone. The illusion of Japanese supremacy, already cracked at Midway and Guadalcanal, endured yet another shattering hit. The P-38 showcased not only battlefield dominance, but also an unexpected operational span that caught Japanese strategists off guard. After Yamamoto's demise, enemy pursuit strategies saw frantic overhauls. Airmen received orders to target P-38 solely under conditions of height superiority, at least a 3.1 numerical edge, and the element of surprise. Even under those circumstances, contacts were meant to stay short, with quick retreats if the first strike missed. Such cautious approaches marked a total shift from the bold ethos that defined Japanese aerial principles. Fresh Japanese planes couldn't tip the scales back. The Kawasaki Ki-84, Frank, debuting toward the end of 1943, kept pace with the P-38 at mid-level heights, but faltered beyond 25,000 feet. The Mitsubishi J-2M Raiden prioritized rapid ascent and upper altitude prowess, yet forfeited distance and agility. Neither model deployed in numbers great enough to contest U.S. sky control. Come November 1943, the shift had fully taken hold. Daylight missions by Japanese forces above the Solomons had all but vanished. Warships ventured forth only under night's veil. Resupply efforts to outposts relied on subs and speedy destroyers making nocturnal sprints. The once dominant Japanese carrier aviation that dominated the Pacific from 1941 to 42 had dwindled to skittish shielding maneuvers. The numbers painted a grim picture. Since major P-38 deployments started, enemy squadrons in the Solomons and New Guinea faced ruinous casualties. The 251st Air Group, kicking off 1943 with 80 aviators, retained just 10 originals by December. The 204th Air Group shed 70% of its flyers within half a year. The 582nd Air Group pulled out of action completely following an 80% aircraft wipeout over 4 months, battling P-38 armed U.S. forces. U.S. casualties, though notable, remained manageable. P-38 units commonly notched 5.1 or higher kill rates. Crucially, downed American flyers were frequently retrieved by search and rescue teams and redeployed. Japanese airmen ejected overseas typically perished by drowning. Battle-worn U.S. planes got fixed and flew again. Comparable harm to Japanese machines often led to scrapping them for want of replacements. The manufacturing gap kept expanding. By December 1943, Lockheed had shipped more than 2,000 P-38s to frontline zones. Output topped 400 units monthly. Japanese fighter output across types hovered near 500 per month, with many held back for homeland protection. The math of wearing down battles turned relentless, pilot preparation paths split wider still. Late 1943 U.S. P-38 arrivals boasted thorough drills in dive tactics, blind flying, and extended-range piloting. Numerous had drilled against seized Japanese planes, grasping their rivals' strengths and flaws intimately. Replacement Japanese pilots, funneled through slashed courses, from 2 years to 6 months, showed scant battle readiness and zero familiarity with P-38s. This personnel shift's toll demands attention. Japanese aviators, who waged war as supreme fighters assured of their edge, now felt powerless versus foes beyond their grasp or pursuit. Captured correspondence from island clashes exposed profound despair. Certain pilots described recurring terrors of forked silhouette phantoms plunging from the glare. Some sought reassignments to infantry over another P-38 encounter. U.S. pilots, by contrast, soared with mounting assurance. The P-38 handed them all the tools: velocity, elevation, armament, and endurance. They dictated engagement terms and timing, holding the upper hand always. This mental boost rivaled the tech edge in worth. Assured airmen pressed harder, embraced smart gambles, and delivered superior outcomes. Richard Bong embodied this poise. Through April 1944, he eclipsed Eddie Rickenbacker's Great War tally of 26 kills. His fighting style refined to flawless execution. Bong ascended to 30,000 feet out of any enemy's grasp, then picked objectives with care. His strikes came fast, accurate, and fatal. He managed under 100 bullets per triumph on average. Richard Bong's aerial prowess shone through in his daring encounters, showcasing exceptional marksmanship. His impressive tally of 40 confirmed kills, all achieved in P-38s, highlighted not only individual talent, but also the inherent dominance of the design. Among his downed foes were seasoned Japanese experts who found it impossible to match the Lightning's superior handling. During a fierce skirmish above Hollandia, Bong eliminated 3 enemy planes in under 5 minutes, employing flawless vertical maneuvers that rendered his adversaries helpless. Thomas Maguire extended the P-38's potential to new heights. His guide to fighting techniques evolved into standard procedure across the Pacific Front. Maguire stressed the value of teamwork among P-38 formations, utilizing synchronized vertical scissors to ensnare Japanese aircraft amid assaults from several Lightnings. Between August 1943 and January 1945, he racked up 38 victories, underscoring the deadly precision of well-applied strategies. Upgrades to the P-38 persisted across the war effort. The G variant brought enhanced turbo superchargers for sustained output beyond 30,000 feet. The H version boasted refined engines delivering 1,425 horsepower apiece. In the J model, intercoolers shifted to the engine nacelles, boosting pilot sightlines and high elevation efficiency. The L variant incorporated power-assisted ailerons, vastly enhancing maneuverability. These advancements tilted the battlefield dynamics even more toward U.S. advantage. The P-38J thrived at 35,000 feet, where Japanese aviators needed oxygen gear merely to stay alert. The L model's superior turning speed erased the Zero's final edge in level turns. By the end of 1944, no Japanese fighter outclassed the P-38L in any respect. Enemy countermeasures grew frantic. Ramming strikes, viewed as noble yet squandered, rose as standard methods collapsed. Suicide squads geared up for kamikaze runs. Certain flyers tried drawing P-38s into cloud cover, hoping obscurity would offset the Lightning's strengths. Such ruses yielded sporadic wins but failed to reverse the core disparity. The late 1944 push into the Philippines revealed the P-38's refined strengths. Squadrons established command of the skies over Leyte almost immediately after landing. Japanese air resupply bids suffered devastating defeats. On November 2, 1944, for instance, the 49th Fighter Group's P-38s obliterated 26 enemy planes with 0 casualties. Lopsided triumphs like these turned commonplace. P-38 protection made long-range raids on Japanese outposts viable. B-24 Liberators struck sites across the Southwest Pacific, secure in the knowledge that Lightning Guardians would shield them. Enemy chasers, barred from bomber heights by escort presence, managed only peripheral harassment. Airfields, storage tanks, and logistics hubs fell methodically. The F-5 reconnaissance adaptation of the P-38 supplied vital data all through the conflict. Operating at peak elevations with optics in place of weaponry, these imaging Lightnings charted each enemy stronghold in the region. Their pace and ceiling rendered interception a rare feat. The intel they procured allowed for pinpoint strikes and follow-ups. Come early 1945, Japan's aerial might in the Southwest Pacific had all but vanished. Surviving veteran airmen pulled back to safeguard the mainland. Novice replacements, barely trained and flying outdated machines, met their end in hopeless stands. The P-38 secured not mere dominance, but total mastery of the air. The toll disparity was immense. From December 1942 to January 1945, Southwest Pacific P-38 groups verified over 1,500 Japanese planes downed in battle. U.S. P-38 combat attrition stayed under 200 machines. The destruction ratio topped 7:1, a milestone in air combat history. More than figures, the P-38 reshaped warfare. It validated that Tech Edge, wielded astutely, could surmount outnumbering and rival expertise. It illustrated that command of the skies hinged less on close-quarters duels and more on dictating fight conditions. It affirmed that manufacturing prowess and pilot prep rivaled bravery and expertise in weight. Fighters from either camp held the Lightning in mingled reverence and admiration. U.S. aviators lauded its adaptability, dependability, and commanding specs. Japanese counterparts deemed it the machine that shattered their reign, the forked-tail fiend impossible to outrun or evade. Mechanics valued its durable build and ease of upkeep amid intricate mechanics. The P-38's legacy rippled past World War II. Its triumphs shaped global post-war jet designs. Vertical tactics emerged as a cornerstone of supersonic dogfights. The emphasis on elevation and velocity rather than maneuverability influenced aircraft designs ranging from the F-86 Sabre to contemporary fifth-generation jets. The blend of innovation, strategy, and preparation, exemplified by the P-38, served as the blueprint for Air Force progress. Lockheed's engineering group, under the direction of Clarence Kelly Johnson, didn't merely produce an effective interceptor. They fundamentally altered the dynamics of air battles. The P-38's distinctive layout, developed to accommodate dual engines and turbo superchargers, delivered performance advantages that single-engine planes simply couldn't replicate. Its centralized forward weaponry avoided the alignment issues common with wing-mounted cannons. The dual-engine setup offered vital reliability across the expansive Pacific expanses. The aviators who piloted the Lightning etched their legacy into the annals of flight history. Richard Bong's tally of 40 kills set the U.S. benchmark for dogfight triumphs. Thomas McGuire's 38 successes, along with his strategic breakthroughs, shaped fighter tactics for years to come. Numerous other P-38 experts proved that, given the right tools and preparation, U.S. flyers could command any skyborne conflict. Japanese aviators confronting the Lightning displayed extraordinary bravery amid hopeless odds. Operating outdated planes against insurmountable tech advantages, they pressed on well beyond any chance of success. Their accounts of the P-38's influence offer crucial insights into the progression of aerial conflicts. Remnants of that era are strewn throughout Pacific atolls. Wrecked P-38s and Japanese interceptors litter forests and atoll waters from New Guinea to the Philippines. Every such site honors the youth who battled and perished in a conflict that molded today's global landscape. Islanders occasionally unearth shells, gauges, and belongings that underscore the ferocity of those sky clashes. Institutions around the globe safeguard P-38 Lightning specimens. Refurbished models soar at aviation displays, their signature twin-tail form immediately identifiable. Former servicemen convene to recount operations undertaken and comrades gone. Scholars persist in examining the operations where the Lightning tipped the scales. The plane that stunned Japanese flyers in 1942 endures as a symbol of U.S. aeronautical prowess. Current armed forces principles still echo teachings from those Pacific heavens. Height and pace stay essential to interceptor engagements. Tech dominance requires complementary maneuvers and drills. Production strength and supply chains dictate enduring fight readiness. The fusion of intel, tech, and execution that powered the Yamamoto operation stands as the pinnacle for targeted assaults. The shift from December 1942 to early 1945 proved total and enduring. The airspace once ruled by the Zero had passed to the Lightning. Japanese carrier-based forces, which entered the war as possibly the globe's premier air arm, had been methodically dismantled. The legend of the unbeatable Zero operator crumbled under American ingenuity and discipline. Ultimately, the P-38 Lightning's influence went beyond simple conquest. It embodied the response of U.S. industrial liberty to dictatorial aggression. It demonstrated that creativity could surpass heritage, that advancements could outpace expertise, that coordinated excellence could best personal prowess. The double-boomed interceptor that Japanese aviators first belittled had forever reshaped sky combat. The Solomon Islands effort, where the Lightning first startled Japanese flyers, forged the foundation of contemporary air fighting. Each subsequent jet interceptor, every beyond-sight missile duel, every intel-directed raid links back to those frantic skirmishes over island paradises. The P-38 didn't merely secure a theater, it redefined the essence of aerial engagement. For surviving Japanese pilots, encounters with P-38s lingered sharply for decades. In after-war recollections, they spoke of the powerlessness in seeing those forked shadows plummeting from unattainable heights. They described the irritation of ideal lead shots missing the mark because the Lightning proved too swift to track accurately. They mourned the loss of allies and leaders to a foe that rewrote engagement norms. U.S. veterans recalled it otherwise. They cherished the assurance of commanding the premier Pacific interceptor. They savored the thrill of flawless dive assaults while dictating the fight's flow. They valued the security of twin motors over endless seas and the edge of perpetually claiming superior position. The P-38 Lightning hadn't just overcome Japanese aerial might, it had upended air combat entirely. Over the Solomon Islands skies, from December 1942 through the conflict's close, the destiny of aerial warfare took form. That destiny claimed ownership not from the victory in aerial combat, didn't hinge on the plane with the tightest turns or the aviator with the quickest reflexes, but on the country capable of forging advanced machinery, grooming capable flyers, and enduring drawn-out operations. As hostilities wrapped up, the P-38 Lightning had stunned, disheartened, and decisively shattered Japanese dominance in the Pacific skies. This twin-tailed warbird, which enemy airmen grew to dread, methodically stripped away their power to vie for mastery overhead. In the process, it locked in U.S. command of the air and sped the Pacific theater's resolution. The shift it sparked amid those fierce clashes still echoes in today's dogfights, an enduring emblem of Yankee ingenuity and the grit of the crews who steered the Lightning to legend.